Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me on NFI Help, the Hungry Day, is Nate Mook. He's the CEO of World Central Kitchen, an organization that uses the power of food to heal communities and strengthen economies in the times of crisis and beyond. Nate, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much for having me, Jill. Happy to be here.
Tell us about the genesis of WCK and its mission.
Yeah, so World Central Kitchen was founded back in 2010 by a chef named Jose Andres, who you might have heard of. He ended up going down to Haiti after the big earthquake in 2010. He went down to Port-au-Prince and started to see how chefs and the culinary industry and food in general could play a role in solving some of the big global challenges that we face in the world. And to bring to bear his experience as a chef, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, to bring the private sector with the public sector to come up with new innovative ideas and new approaches. And that was the beginning. That was the early days, how the power of food could change the world.
When World Central Kitchen first launched, did you expect it would be answering the calls around the world as a food first responder?
You know, this work was always at the heart of World Central Kitchen, but it took a while to get here, right? You know, we had a lot of learning to do. Jose had a lot of learning to do. It was a lot of listening, a lot of learning from those that were looking to support, not coming in with solutions from the outside and parachuting in, but rather understanding the role that food plays and how we can uplift and empower communities, not just sort of come in and kind of dump an answer on them. And so, although it was at the core from the very beginning of World Central Kitchen, it really wasn't until a bit later in the organization. 2017 really was the year when this work of becoming food first responders went to the forefront. Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. This was right after Hurricanes Irma and Harvey, you might remember. But Maria hit Puerto Rico really hard, and World Central Kitchen showed up, and we were able to take the years of experience and learning and knowledge and the relationships that we had built and kind of really put them to the task at hand. But it definitely was not an overnight thing. You know, it was a lot of being out there. Jose was front and center in 2012 during Hurricane Sandy in New York. And just over those years, learning and understanding where there were gaps and putting into place new ideas of how to solve these challenges.
Nate, what's the process like when World Central Kitchen leads an emergency food relief response? How do you execute on an effort like that?
So the first thing I'll say is every disaster is different, right? So a big hurricane is different from the wildfires in California we're responding to now, or a disaster like we just responded to in Beirut, where there was a big explosion at the port that displaced thousands of people. So sort of at its core, step one is being ready to adapt, right? Going in, and you're not going to have all of the answers. So you have to go in and be ready to move quickly and look at what resources there are on the ground. What are the restaurants? What are the chefs? What's the local knowledge that we can tap into and help kind of bring together? So World Central Kitchen in many ways is a bit of a catalyst, right? We come in with some of our experience and the structures of how we can move quickly and get teams going and get kitchens producing thousands of meals and identify where those meals need to go and the systems in place. But so much relies on partnership and collaboration with those on the ground. So, you can do a lot to prepare in advance and kind of have everything at the ready, knowing that in a disaster, you might have to throw all of that out of the window and just, respond in real time to the challenges that are in front of you.
How did World Central Kitchen respond to COVID-19, and how did you work with Restaurants for the People?
So COVID-19 was a very different disaster, I think, for everybody in this country. Nobody could have imagined what we're facing. Unlike a traditional natural disaster that really hits one area, COVID was everywhere, right? It was in the big cities, the small towns. You couldn't just kind of focus in a lot of resources into one place. So as we looked at how can World Central Kitchen respond to the growing hunger crisis, the humanitarian crisis that has been brought on by the health crisis that then led to an economic crisis, and now families are struggling to put food on the table, we really had to look at a new approach. And as we saw across the country, all these businesses were also struggling. Restaurants were, had no business anymore. So we thought, how could we come up with a smart solution, put these restaurants back to work in service of their communities? World Central Kitchen can't be everywhere. We have a fairly small team, and we certainly can't be in hundreds of cities across the United States, but there are restaurants in every community. So we kind of said, what if we empower those restaurants, support those restaurants, and help coordinate, but they're the ones really serving, cooking the meals and getting it out to their community. And that's exactly what we did. So Restaurants for the People is exactly that. It's we've activated over 2,500 restaurants across the country to cook, prepare meals, and get them delivered to those in need, both frontline workers, families that are out of work and struggling, and whoever might need a meal, seniors that are isolated because of the health crisis, and make sure those meals can get in the hands of those that need them most.
And finally, where's World Central Kitchen working now? You mentioned Lebanon, and how can one get involved as a volunteer and or donate?
Yeah, so we've got a number of active operations. We're still responding to COVID across the country. Recently, there's been some additional disasters, a big derecho weather incident in Iowa, a big explosion in Beirut. Our teams are on the ground in Louisiana for Hurricane Laura, and of course, in response to all of the wildfires right now that are going on in California and Oregon. The best way to get involved is go to our website, wck.org. There you can sign up to donate, and all of the money donated goes directly to meals for those on the ground. You can also see if there's volunteer opportunities. We have some ways to get involved in Louisiana and in Washington, D.C. and in parts of California. So, follow us also on our social media feeds as well to see what we're doing in real time. And, really just join us. We are a people-powered organization. We are, not funded by the government. We're funded by the people and our partners, and that enables us to get those meals out as they're needed to those in times of crisis.
Nate, thank you for all the work you do and for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.